If you're thinking of buying a new electric car but are put off by the high list price, then we've got good news for you. The UK government is offering up to £3,750 towards the cost of buying a new electric car. But is this as good as it seems? And are Chinese manufacturers being punished as a result? Keep watching to find out everything you need to know and to get our top tips on the best ways to take advantage of this deal. Now, you may remember that between 2011 and 2022, the plug-in car grant in the UK offered buyers money off ultra-low emissions vehicles. It was introduced to encourage people to buy an alternative to a pure petrol or diesel car. And it was needed because at the time, a fully electric car was significantly more expensive than a pure petrol or diesel alternative. Over time, the gap in price has narrowed, but even today, it's still typical for a fully electric car to cost more than an alternative with an internal combustion engine. And so, with a ban on new petrol and diesel cars on the horizon, and the UK government's aim to meet a net zero emissions target in 2050, on the 16th of July 2025, a new electric car grant was announced to once again encourage people to buy a new fully electric car. When the previous deal was available, the government said more than 400,000 claims were made, and the value of the grants issued was almost £1.5 billion. This time around, the government has pledged £650 million to pay for the scheme. It's expected to be available until sometime in the 2028-29 financial year, but the exact time that it will end will be reviewed, and it's likely to be based on when the money in the pot that pays for the scheme runs out. So great, every electric car will be loads cheaper to buy, right? Well, not quite, and working all this out is fairly complicated, so let's explain. The grant will be offered at two levels, £3,750 and £1,500. And it's down to car makers to apply for the scheme for each one of their EVs. But not every car is eligible. For a start, it can't have more than 9 seats, which is not such a problem. But it also has to cost less than £37,000 to buy new. So that means you won't be able to get any money at all off a £100,000 BMW i7, but a £20,000 Citroën EC3 does get a saving. However, there's some small print that's worth paying attention to here. Let's look at the Cupra Born lineup as an example. Even though the range starts at £34,000, you can spend more than £44,000 on a Cupra Born. But some of the higher trim levels are still eligible for a discount, even though they cost more than £37,000. That is because as long as the battery and electric motor combination that you want has a starting price under £37,000, you are still able to get a discount if you pick that combination in a higher, more expensive trim level with some options that tips the cost over the £37,000 threshold. But the government has hurriedly now introduced a hard £42,000 upper cap to this loophole. Now, so far, all the cars we've mentioned are only allowed to receive the lower reduction of £1,500. So why aren't they eligible for the full £3,750? Well, eligibility also depends on the level of emissions associated with production of the vehicle. And that is essentially how green the car is in terms of carbon emissions created in producing it. That means the highest discount band is only applicable to cars with the lowest carbon emissions scores. And this is where things get fairly murky. Part of this criteria is simple for most new electric cars. They have to have zero tailpipe emissions, an official WLTP range of at least 100 miles, and a warranty that covers the EV batteries for at least 8 years or 100,000 miles. And they have to be willing to replace batteries that fall below 70% of their original capacity during this time. Car makers must also have a verified science-based target. This is a commitment to reduce its environmental impact, in line with the UK's international climate commitments, which is verified by the independent Science Based Targets Initiative. As well as this, the carbon emissions incurred during vehicle assembly and battery cell production must be below certain thresholds. Exact details of this is yet to be made public. However, it's expected that where a car is put together will have quite a big impact on this. For example, the new Nissan Leaf is expected to be one of the very few cars which does benefit from the maximum £3,750 reduction. And that is likely down in large part thanks to the fact that it will be built in the UK at Nissan's Sunderland factory. However, the Nissan Micra, which is built in France, is only eligible for the £1,500 discount. But not everything built abroad is ruled out of the top saving. The Ford Puma Gen E and the Ford e-Tourneo Courier have both just been announced as the first recipients of the full £3,750 discount. Even though they're built in Ford's plant in Romania, Ford said the emissions generated during battery production and vehicle assembly met the required criteria. The energy used there is completely renewable, and it has set a goal of becoming fully carbon neutral by 2050. Whatever these mysterious emissions benchmarks are, it is likely that many Chinese EVs will not receive any savings. And this has caused something of a backlash from Chinese brands in the UK, because they build most of their fully electric offerings in China and then ship them over here. And so, even though the cars themselves are fully electric, and lots of them are cheap, the emissions involved in building them in China means it's actually unlikely that any Chinese car will be eligible for any discount. This, in fact, meant that when the grant was first announced and it became clear that Chinese manufacturers were unlikely to receive any benefits from it, they took matters into their own hands and reduced the prices of their cars. Brands like MG and Leapmotor suddenly lowered the prices of some of their products by £1,500 and £3,750. Indeed, the whole announcement of the scheme was pretty chaotic, to say the least, and inadvertently caused some short-term damage to the car industry. Because the government announced that a new discount for electric cars was on the way, but it didn't give much in the way of detail at all. And so, because car buyers in the UK were suddenly made aware of a discount coming soon to buy a new electric car, lots of them, understandably, held off the decision to actually buy one. This is likely to have had an impact on the 5% drop in UK registrations of new cars in July compared to the same month last year. And even now, the finer details and eligibility around the scheme aren't exactly crystal clear. So far, the list of confirmed electric cars that do receive a discount is fairly short. But for those who are ready to jump in and hit the EV sales right now, there are still some fantastic choices around. These are the top 5 that you can buy right now. At number 5, it's a car we've already mentioned, the Ford Puma Gen E. It gets a big and cleverly designed boot, is fun to drive, and with the full EV grant applied, it's very competitively priced compared to other alternatives. Next, another small SUV, the Renault 4. It's agile around town and comfortable and quiet at speed. On top of that, it offers a competitive range and a smart interior for a very tempting price. It's another Renault next, the Renault Scenic. A much bigger SUV than the Renault 4, of course, and even before this discount, the Scenic was cheaper than many of its closest rivals. But it's not just the price that makes this electric SUV brilliant. It gets a long range between charges, decent space and practicality, and a 5-star safety rating. It's a great all-rounder. At number 2, the Skoda Elroq is an incredibly impressive electric proposition. Spacious, practical, with a ride that's so comfortable and quiet, it's like it's a luxury car, not just an electric SUV. It's so well-rounded and impressive that it makes many other much more expensive electric options seem a bit silly, especially with this discount. But we think the best car you can buy right now, which qualifies for the electric car grant, is the Renault 5. You can tell from our list that Renault has acted quickly to register its products for this discount, and that is great news for car buyers, particularly because the Renault 5 is our reigning 2025 Car of the Year, and quite simply a fantastic electric car. This discount also applies to the Alpine A290 hot hatch. You can click on the link at the top of the screen to watch our full review of the Renault 5 to find out exactly what makes it so good. So that is everything you need to know about the new electric car grant. Thanks for watching this video. Click here to subscribe so you can see lots more videos like this, and click here to go to whatcar.com.